I do want to take accountability for some ways I've done this wrong, to put it mildly. But that there was intention behind that, and God is behind the things I'm doing. This isn't some weird dark force working through me or anything crazy. Um, it's actually quite the opposite. I'll explain it here shortly. Um, but I would make the argument that the darkness has been cast out, and what everybody is seeing is the light. And the problem and the reason it's so painful is because the light's coming from a lot of very hurt, very broken little boys inside of me that I'm having to teach the difference between uh, lashing out in a healthy way through art and lashing out at people who don't deserve it, like my poor grandma who got a mean message. And I'll explain who and where that came from, why it's that bad. I'll try not to be graphic, but I do want to do a trigger warning up front. I am going to be discussing severe domestic violence and severe uh, to explain why I have these symptoms. But again, I will not be graphic. It's just to help explain. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so the way I'm going to try to do this is very similar to the way I'm going to be doing sermons at the UnderChurch. So we're going to talk about Mark 5, 1 through 13, okay? And I'm going to explain what's going on with me through a biblical lens, because I know a lot of my friends and family don't have a ton of background in psychology and stuff like that, because why would they need it, right? I'm not saying that as in any sort of judgmental way. Just my particular case, even to a clinician, is very complicated. So if it confuses you, don't worry. It confuses psychiatrists. So I explained some of the reasons for that in an older video that's on my YouTube that talks about complex PTSD from a more clinical perspective. So let's talk about it from a Jesus perspective, right? Because that's what the UnderChurch is all about, Jesus, okay? I promise. Jesus is behind this stuff. Unfortunately, Colton, who is a sinner and an imperfect human being, sometimes drops the ball a little bit. But that's why we're going to have what we call the accountability addendum after every discussion time we have. So I'll explain the schedule and all that after I explain what's going on with my mental health, why I'm doing the things I'm doing to heal, even if they might seem counterintuitive. The first thing I would want to reiterate is if it doesn't make sense to you, that's because your brain is not broken. The reason we have to think about it this way and describe it this way for me to heal is because of how damaged my neurology is. Okay? There's significant damage in my neural pathways. That is just a fact. So what you have to do as a psychologist is come up with a metaphor to help the patient understand what they need to do to engage those neural pathways in a healthy way. Okay, now we're going to talk about it in a biblical sense. Mark 5, 1 through 13, where we talk about legion and casting demons out into the pigs. I find this to be an allegory and a story and a historical account of Christ performing. I think Christ performed a lot of psychological miracles. That is why I believe in him. That's why I have the utmost faith that God is real and Christ is his son and died for our sins. I don't doubt it for a second. I know a lot of people think I poke at it. The reality is I have poked at it so much that I found it infallible. The top three beliefs. I will not be shaken off those. The Trinity, the gospel, and love thy neighbor more. We will talk about it all, but you're not going to shake me off those. But we will debate the rest of them. We're going to practice debate because I think it's healthy. I think it's good for our community to argue. So that is part of the intention of this, is to create healthy conflict. But again, people like me who have anger issues sometimes overstep. So first of all, I owe a huge apology to Grandma. I'm going to give you a call and we'll schedule a time to sit together and I'll give you a big hug, okay? I want to do this video for everybody to see because it's important for me to take public accountability for my mistakes, and it's important for me to do that, okay? Because I always want to be viewed as a broken person doing his best and not some kind of special anything, okay? I'm just Colin, and I'm trying to figure this out because God's given a path on my life, and I'm following it, and it freaks me out. But that's how I know it's the right thing, because I don't want to do it. I feel compelled to. All right, let's keep going. Okay, Mark 5, 1 through 13. I'm not going to read it out. I'm just going to summarize it, but I'm telling you where it comes from so you can verify that I am speaking biblically and not making stuff up. So, I'm going to write up here, just for reference, Mark 5, 1 through 13. So Christ, there's a man in town who has demons, okay? And when I read Mark 5, 1 through 13 this morning, as God called me to do, I was freaked out, this is why I say it's a God thing, by how much he sounded like the bad parts inside of me when they were talking about no chains could hold him. No, he was cutting himself with stones and screaming. Like, that's that video, I'm awake, I'm alive, I can fight. It's very creepy, I did. It's me enacting the pain of one of my altars that I'll explain, but that is a reenactment of what it was like while it lived in the darkness. Now we're all healing because God has cast out the demons into the hog. I'll show you what I mean. So this performance art stuff, see, I was throwing around this thing that has the hog at the top and all that. That's my dad. The demons have been cast into Rich for him to live in hell alone in New York. I think a lot of people think I'm doing this out of some sort of whatever. But I don't actually hate him. To be honest with you, I pity him because once I finished the profile of how I ended up here, I realized that the reasons I suffered so much violence and intensity is because I'm the most like him. And he hates himself so much that seeing a version of him do things that he thought he was good at, even better than him, with half the effort, drove him insane. And caused him to do some incredibly heinous stuff. And again, I'm not going to get graphic, but as I describe these altars, you're going to get a difficult picture of what it's like for me. Okay? Okay. So that was me just sort of letting out some pain because I'm talking about difficult topics. So I'm going to take a break, maybe smoke a cigarette, and we're going to get back to Mark 5, 1 through 13. So, Mark 5, 1 through 13, let's talk about, so Legion, right, comes to God, says I'm in pain, And then the demons begin to beg God, please, Jesus, please don't cast us out of the town. Can we go into the pigs? So, when I say this is a God thing, I want to show you why. The awake, the alive, and the fight thing freaked everybody out. Understandably, okay? I want to validate that. I don't blame y'all for being freaked out. And it was not smart of me to just post that without thinking about the audience. But God has a plan in my failures. Okay? Because I woke up this morning and thought, I need to read the passage about Legion because I bet that'll help me explain what's going on. And sure enough, I read through it and went, oh my God, there was a plan. Because I didn't, the hog thing, putting that in that performance art piece, I didn't have that connection when I put that there. That's not Colton thinking up that idea, okay? I have just been going off instinct, just blind instinct. And I keep stumbling my way into incredible metaphors, incredible spiritual realizations, because they're not mine. They're God's coming through me. But I have to get better at channeling that because I'm a broken person. I'm very wounded and I'm trying to get it figured out, okay? So the reason I kind of went crazy and went full speed early is because I knew you guys loved me. Those of you who have rebuked me, rightfully, for getting out of line. It's because I knew y'all loved me. And I wanted to make sure I got this right before it got big. Because I think it's going to get big. Because I don't think it's my plan. I think I'm just a passenger on this ride, okay? So I didn't even make the connection. But when Jesus cast the demons out of Legion into the pigs, what he's doing with me, and he timed it perfectly, because my first altar, I'll talk about him in a minute, he's got to be somewhere around 3 and 4. So it was like God was chasing out before and listening to my prayers and your prayers to protect my son. So thank you. Your prayers are working, guys. They're working something special. I can tell that because of how hard the devil's coming for me. Now I'm going to do a trick here because I want to get everybody more comfortable with the performance art stuff. I'm going to intentionally switch into a scary protector altar just for a little fun theater, okay? But I'm in control. There's not actually a person taking over me. It's just an act. It's just firing neural pathways of an emotion, and my face can express it so realistically because it comes from a traumatic experience and the emotions I had during that, or the way someone was shoving a demon into me. It's a reflection of the demon being shoved into me, okay? So, here we go. We're going to switch just to have a little fun, and then I'm going to come back to Colton, and I don't want you to freak out. The devil's afraid of me. I'm not afraid of him. He's been sending his best soldiers, and they still can't stop me. I'm awake. I'm alive. I can fight. Okay. See? Terrifying. But here I am, just being Colton with his gluey dad mode shirt, talking about Mark 5, 1 through 13. So we're going to keep going. I'm going to give you a second to chill out from that, because I know it's scary. That was my childhood, and I'm sorry. We'll get this. We're going to get through this, guys. I promise you. Because God's watching out for us. I promise you. I love you. We're going to keep going. Take a break. So, what I believe God's plan is for me, I'm going to get this chair actually, too. Maybe this will be better. I'm kind of tired. So, what I believe to be God's plan for me, I'm going to pull this down, is Mark 5:1-13 tells the story of the demons being cast out and what happened after. It doesn't tell you what happened to the guy who was once Legion. And so, through me, Christ can show those of you who have a fear of the weird and the wacky and worry it's demonic, and I understand that, but it's to help you guys discern the difference between weird and wacky, like me, and evil, like my dad. That's what this is about. And it's not because y'all have any fault. The devil is the greatest illusionist of all time. That is his form of magic, is illusion. And my father is one hell of a disciple of the devil. I'll tell you that much. Okay. Deep breath, guys. I promise good things are coming. So, the Sunshine Project, in my mind, let's see if I can move this camera. But the reality is, I think what's going to be difficult for a lot of people to accept is that my definition of functional is going to be very messy and weird because of my condition. So God is going to continue the story of Mark 5:1-13 through your beloved grandson, nephew, son, future husband, Miss. Yeah, I'm going to tell you all about her. She's special. And father to my wonderful son, Finn. So the name is Sunshine because I want to let the Son of God, Christ, shine. I want to let my son be safe from this kind of evil so that he doesn't have to carry the pain I do. That's me on the cross next, as the thief next to Christ, right? And Sunshine's a nickname a whole lot of people who love me very much used to call me back in the day. It used to be a sign that that person understood my vibe. All right? Those of you that have called me that, you kind of got it. So, there will be more to come about Loving Neighbor Network, but that is right now, long term, off. That one's a little further off, so we're going to focus on the Sunshine Project UnderChurch. So, I just lost 8 minutes of footage that talked about this, so hopefully, I'm just going to start over and I'll check in the edit if I missed anything, but I'm holding back tears because the reason I think I lost that last video is it was very emotional, and I think God wants to take it easy on everybody for a minute because this has been rough. But I do want you to know that it's, what's tough about what I'm going through and hard to explain is I'm both simultaneously in deep, incredible pain. Some of the most pain I've been. Now, I want to be clear. The reality is I'm in this pain all the time. It's unfortunately a nature of the condition. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder most people have a reduced lifespan because your cortisol levels remain full fight or flight until the end. And because of how severe mine was, and because I have specifically the fight response over the others, which is one of the more intense ones, it is an exhausting journey. And so I haven't gotten a lot of sleep, but not because of hypomania. It's because I'm having flashbacks and recovering memories. I told some things to my uncle yesterday, and then when I went to go to bed, because he validated certain things for me with his empathetic reaction. This is why we're engaging this fear response and creating conflict. because it made me go, oh, my uncle's safe. He loves me. He's watching out for me. My aunt is safe. My grandma, my lovely, sweet grandma is safe. My granddaddy, my pawpaw. Okay? So why I'm doing this is when this goes out to a wider audience, people that don't love me, I need to make sure I'm guiding this carefully. Because again, I think it's a God thing, and I think it's going to grow fast. And so I need people by my side that change my diapers. So I don't forget that there was a time I was full of shit. Right? So, I'm going to check the timestamp on that. Excuse the profanity. I'm just trying to be genuine. Maybe I'll bleep that out. So why would God heal his child? Because I do want to make this clear. I don't want y'all to have faith in Dr. Lynn, right? He's just a man. He's a great therapist, and he's part of God's plan for me because it's very freaky how specifically fit to my issues Dr. Lynn is. You need to understand, again, my case is incredibly complicated. I explain that in the more scientific one that's on later down the YouTube feed about C-PTSD. It's a very complicated case. So I need a smart guy who knows a lot about theology. Dr. Lynn happens to be both of those, okay? And y'all pray for him. That's all I got to say. Y'all pray for him. All right. So the reason that we are going through this, it's painful, it's beautiful, all at the same time. And the reason God's putting me through this, and I'm sorry y'all have to watch. I wish I could hide this stuff, but I'll explain why I can't in a minute. First, I want to talk about the exorcism that happened in Legion and the exorcism that happened in me. Jesus is working, guys. Okay, so my protectors, mean guys. My providers, the nice guys. Okay, the good, holy. These ones are my holy guys. Okay, now these guys are very immature, very violent, and need a whole lot of chastisement, a whole lot of time to rest. This is why it's very dangerous to intentionally and continually poke at my triggers, which a certain mother of my child continues to do. And this is why you guys have been seeing me stuck in this place, okay? Spiritual warfare. The devil is unhappy because the liars and the deceivers have been cast out of me. So now he's trying to sabotage by forcing me to stay in the protectors and not letting me transition into the providers. But God has a plan more powerful than him. So that's why I woke up this morning and put on my Bluey Dad Mode shirt and my top dad hat so I could stay in dad mode, right? And handle this as a father as best I can. Okay? Because I didn't have a good father, but I grew up around a lot of good dads. And so I want to thank a lot of those good dads who let me stay at their house with their son who was my friend or my relatives, my aunts, uncles. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So these are the demons because they work on a satanic agenda. I'll show you guys what I mean by that in a sec, but just power, prosperity, and pleasure. These are the things that motivate the liars and the deceivers. Okay? So this is the demonic entities within Legion. Okay? These are the demonic entities. Because of the brokenness of Legion's mind, he can never be formed into a full being. That is my problem too. I know this is, trust me, I know this is confusing because it's not normal. My brain is forever abnormal. Okay? It's a disability. that I will be able to mitigate. But just like you see people in a wheelchair or whatever, because their legs, that's why I'm building this, is because I'm going to be doing contract work, and I'm not going to be able to probably keep like a long career because I'm going to need stints in the grip with the grippy socks and crackers every once in a while. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to have to go take a vacation in the institution. Okay, that's going to be a reality of my life at certain points, and um, so I just want y'all to understand that not to take this as me trying to dodge getting a real job. This is me trying to go, okay, here's me trying to leverage this pain into creativity so that I can make a second income on top of this contract or part-time work so I can pay my bills. Okay, and I'll explain some more in the GoFundMe, but I want to stay on the spirit right now. Let me check the time code, make sure we got time. Okay, so one thing God keeps telling me is don't get too attached to the first draft, which is, and this is what's so amazing, like, this is how I know God's my real dad. You know what I mean? Like, the things that God's, like, has said to me ever since my dad has gone have been some of the most beautiful, wonderful, hope-giving things I've ever heard, and they just show up in my brain. I don't think them. They just show up, and I weep. I literally weep in gratitude every time because it's like my father's built the perfect system I need to heal around me. And the exact blessings that this little guy has always wanted in his life, which is to be a to pour the love that you guys give me out back to you as much as possible. And there's so many of you that I'm trying that only way I can think to do that is the internet. So I'm trying to use the internet to spread my love and healing and excitement just as far as I can. Okay? So that is what the intention of this project is. And so I started off really dark and creepy for most of just family and stuff to see because I was in a lot of pain and I was crying for help. And you guys answered the call. You're doing a great job. Don't listen to the angry kid. Listen to adult dad call. You guys have done an amazing job of handling the least of these. And I know you'll continue to do it, which is why I'm building the UnderChurch. Because there's a lot of wacky weirdos like me, okay? But you guys have taught me a lot about love, taught me a lot about God, taught me a lot about faith. And I want to take it out there. And so God's designed me as this little freaky dude in the wilderness, you know, to help reach some of my fellow wacky weirdos with the gospel. Okay? And I'm keeping my core, close, conservative, heart of Georgia family right here next to me as my advisors. That's how I see y'all, as y'all are my advisory board to keep me humble, to keep me in line. Because I'm a collection of broken kids and a dad at the same time. And I'm doing my best to wrangle all this. And with God's help, I'm going to get it. Okay? Remember, Christ is the healer. My doctors are my guides, right? They're disciples of God. They're helping with the healing. But Christ is the healer. And the way that that's evidenced is, again, it is not natural for someone with my condition to get their altars figured out this fast, okay? So let's go through them. Let me check time. Okay, so now, let's talk about the protectors and the providers. Okay, so we'll talk about this in the Trinity and Triune nature of God. why it's one of my favorite theologies. Me and Luke are going to do a podcast on it. He's been doing a lot of reading. So my objective here is I'm going to have the two other preachers that are my co-preachers. They're going to be my research guys and my bumpers. Think of like the bowling bumper guards. They're going to be my bumper guards to just me running with my instincts and vision full speed, because that's unfortunately the only way I can operate and function. Is just lean into my instincts and run. And that means it's going to be messy. So I've built my advisory board, and I've built these two close friends who, and the reason I need two close friends is because friends don't trigger me. Friends are safety. And I'll talk about um, all my triggers and why we have to do these things that I'm doing later in the video. Okay. So, Christ, he is the closest to us, our human self, right? So it's so the devil is an illusionist, right? And so what he's trying to do is to confuse you by reverting the image of God. Because he doesn't have the power to create his own image. He only, through the power of light, can manipulate light, okay? And that's why I call phones, screens of all kinds, Luciferian light boxes, to just sort of, as a metaphor to remind yourself that when you're engaging with this technology, it's dangerous, okay? Be careful with the way it affects you. We'll get into it, okay? So, Holy Spirit is the intercessor between us and God the Father, who is our protector, provider. Okay. So, and then in psychology, if you just kind of want to know science, don't worry about this if you're not interested. Check out, I'll do it more in my sermon. There you go. Ego, superego. Okay? This is the holy order. I call this the holy order, and I call this the satanic agenda. So, a healthy being is one that has a healthy balance between the id, ego, and superego. So we are trying to form ourselves in the image of God as best we can by Christ is the most human form of God. So he is perfect and without sin. We'll never achieve that. Okay? We'll never achieve that. That's only God. So that means that he is our intercessor. He is our sacrifice, because he is the vanguard against the satanic agenda. Without him, this pollutes us. Okay? It pollutes our very being by pushing its way and creating an inverted image. This is why people like my father, and we'll get into the heresy of hierarchy and just ways to up our spiritual security. Not in a way that I'm saying anybody was blamed. No one holds any blame for this except for Rich. And so, okay. Now, let's just reference like the clinical terms and how they align with this story of the Bible, where Mark 5:1-13, God casts out the liars and the deceivers into the halls. And the reason I say this is a God thing is because I got that art piece with all the crazy conspiracy-looking drawing on a whiteboard. At the top says the hog. I didn't plan that, okay? I didn't plan that. And think about how well it connects to this sermon, which I'm teaching today, and then plan on teaching today. Again, God is at work, guys. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. Okay? But I need your help. Okay? That's why I screamed and threw a tantrum and bled everywhere, because my youngest author, who we'll talk about shortly, was in an incredible amount of pain, and he just needed to feel that hug. So thank you, my uncle, for coming and doing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It allowed me to unlock a very difficult memory, but it's made me feel so much more healed, because good, we're closing more loops. Okay. Take a deep breath there. Sometimes I say things, so this is why my case is complicated. I often say very dark things with no realization of how much pain that is. And that is because I'm so deeply desensitized to pain and anguish. And that is why I'm being asked to run headlong into it, because I'm designed to handle it, right? I can be a public figure, take the sticks and arrows, because, buddy, I've been taking them all my life. I'm awake. I'm alive. I can fight. You understand me? Try me. All right, let's check the time. Oh my God, that guy's so intense. That's the orb weaver. I'm going to explain him in a little bit. He's a protector, not a bad guy. But the reason he's so scary is because I still have access to an adult mind, right? So he can speak like an adult, but he's like 3 or 4. So that intense level of rage, violence is a toddler inside of a full-grown man's body. I mean, and y'all saw my tantrums as a toddler, a lot of y'all. Just imagine those in a 6'1" man filled with rage. Okay? Yeah, we got to keep that guy on a leash. But I got to give him an outlet, right? He's got to throw his tantrum, but I need to be more strategic with where I post his tantrums because, ooh, buddy, he's something else. We'll get into him. Okay. And I say that with love. When I say he's something else, I say it with love, not in a scary way. I was going to cut this off. It's not in a scary way. Again, like I said, think of it. Again, these are metaphors, so they're confusing because they're not reality. They're stories I'm telling to help a difficult concept be understood, both by me and by you, my audience, and my family and my friends. So he's an intense guy because of his emotional immaturity and the fear he has. But he still has a deep heart of love because when my uncle shows up and gives me a big hug to heal the tantrum and I'm screaming and crying and I need help, and my mom brings me groceries, and my brother checks in on me constantly, and my friends check in on me constantly, it tells the orb weaver, oh, all these, I've chased out all the threats in my web. That's why I call it orb weaver, like a spider. The threats are gone. There's only love. And thank y'all for that. Okay. So, when I talk about disassociation, what I mean and what I'm trying to avoid is the demons, okay? Because disassociation is where these demons live, these liars and the deceivers. Because they're hiding the abuse. They're hiding my sins, because my sins are very confusing and scary because they're based off very dark things, okay? I'm not going to tell you why, but I'm just going to tell you that the phrase, get the demons out, this is how we get the demons out, was used against a very young boy who really believed in Jesus and was very scared of demons, okay? And that's where I'm going to leave it. So, to stay away from these, so the reason I don't consider myself a Baptist, and or somebody who believes in once saved, always saved, we'll talk about when we get to secondary and tertiary belief systems that you can be a part of the UnderChurch as long as you accept the 3 primary beliefs. In fact, I want people to argue and disagree with me. I want y'all to disagree with one another. I want to normalize healthy conflict amongst our church families, right? Because one of the things that concerns me currently is everybody goes to their building, but we're not cooperating with our neighbor churches. Whereas if you think of church as the centers of community, I mean, imagine the change we could make if we just learned how to interact with other churches in our community better. And I have a plan to practice that on December 22nd that I'll explain a bit later, okay? So not in this talk, in a later time. That's really cool. And if you know my granddaddy Walker, ask him about it. Because I did tell him about it, and he was very excited. So if you want to know, ask him. And if anybody else wants to know, just text me. Sorry, that was a little prideful and a little arrogant. That was an 18 or 15-year-old. I don't know which one of those. Hang on, give me a sec. I'll figure it out. It was 18-year-old. So he really can fall on his intelligence as a defense mechanism, and we'll explain why that's a sin. Let me check the time. Okay. So why that's a sin is knowledge gives you power, right? It makes you feel strong to have a lot of knowledge. It makes you feel strong to be smart. But I can tell you, as somebody, when I threw out the term savant, it was from a clinical perspective, okay? Because my doctor told me years ago, when this brain was still really soupy and messed up and not running at the speed it is now, that I was at like 2 times the standard deviation of normal for analysis. 1.5 to 2 times. So more than likely, it's actually higher than that now. So I'm not throwing that term around to brag. But my 18-year-old self, see, Dad told him knows it's not good to brag. My 18-year-old self is scared of everybody that's trying to attack him and debate him all the time. We'll get to it. I'm a little mad at some of y'all. Not my relatives, but some extended people. Some church folks. We're going to get a little angry. Hold on, let me check time. Okay. So what we're doing with this treatment plan, and I know that it seems strange. Why would you put a boy through so much pain? And when I saw, the beauty of these discussions and these intense, heated debates is they really expose true love. That's to me what Turn the Other Cheek is about. Because somebody can lash out in anger. Sometimes we all have our messes. I'm one of the messiest, so my tantrums get pretty over the top. So I need a little extra heat coming at me to get me to calm down, but I need it from someone who I know loves me and not once feels threatened. Just because they're getting loud, I never feel threatened, right? If my dad's getting loud, I'm getting afraid, okay? So that is just a reality of my life. Now, what's the healing plan? Now, Christ has cast the demons out. I don't believe in once saved, always saved because I can't. It may be biblical, but it's psychologically and spiritually dangerous for a cult. This is why I say we've got to hold to the 3 primary beliefs and let the other things be secondary and tertiary. Because some wacky weirdos like me, sometimes there's good reason our beliefs end up in a different place. And it's God the Father knowing us and protecting us, even if we're a little different, right? But He's still calling me to Him. He's still calling me to His Son. And I love His Son very much for what He sacrificed. Because I know the pain I'm in ain't even close to what He was feeling on the cross. And for Him to go through that for me, like I'm having to go through it now for my son, ain't nobody I love more than Jesus for that. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. Ain't nobody I love more than Jesus for that. Okay. So why do we have to do this weird stuff where Colton constantly engages his fear response? I'm going to talk about these values, this value system I'm using to heal a little bit more in a second, but we're just going to, so radical empathy. Okay, so this is my holy order. I will, at the Triune, Trinity and Triune nature of God, I will help guide y'all to consider picking your ways to protect your holy order, right? Like these are the prescriptions to protect my holy order. Okay, think of it that way. To keep me in line with God. So, radical empathy, radical disclosure, and radical honesty. So, radical honesty, radical empathy, and radical disclosure. So it's all radical because I can never have to do anything. Unfortunately, I have to scream running headlong at the threat and just get my hands in there. Which, hey, the fact that that's my instinct, not a great sign for childhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that my instinct with dealing with things is just hit it hard and hit it fast, right? Not a good sign for childhood, but God has a plan in it. God's got a plan in everything. Romans 8:28, right? Mwah, love that verse. We'll get to it on a different one. All right. Radical disclosure, radical empathy, radical honesty. That is what Colton is up to. And the reason Colton is up to this is because these are his protection mechanisms against the forces of darkness that are after him because they want to stop God's plan. They're very afraid, which is why we're going through so much right now as a family. The devil's scared, buddy. He's real scared. Real scared. All right. You want to know what God's revealing to me in this moment? Pretty amazing. Another thing, like I said, beautiful stuff is just coming to me. That's how I know I'm trying to find God's path. I'm not doing it perfectly. It's riding down a river. There's rocks on that river, right? I'm going to hit some rocks, especially the way I drive the boat. You know what I mean? We're going to hit some rocks, buddy. But I know I'm surrounded by one of the most beautiful, loving communities in all the world. That's why I want to start the UnderChurch. I want to share that community with the world. But I don't want to expose y'all to public crap. So I'm slings and arrows guy, right? But behind me is the greatest community of love, understanding, empathy, honesty, disclosure ever, in my opinion. Okay? Because there are people that just reached out to me from stuff that they were seeing that I haven't talked to in years that I love, like that are great folks, and just checking on me and making concern. And I'm just like, that's how I know. Because all this love is coming at me to help counter the hate the devil's sending that keeps getting weaker and weaker and weaker. That's right. All right, folks. Amen. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. So, why does Colton have to constantly be afraid to be healthy? Why does Colton have to do this public thing and intentionally address all the things that scare him the most? We'll do it when I get to my triggers and altars. Over there. Right now, we're going to focus on the Bible, okay? I'll probably separate these videos. This will be the Mark 5:113 sermon. And over there, we'll do the Sunshine Project explanation. Okay. So why does Colton have to engage his fear response constantly? Right? To stay healthy. Why does Legion need to engage the fear response to stay healthy? The reason is because we have to aim and align our fear in the appropriate direction. So, the thing that pulls us toward the liars and the deceivers is a fear of man. Or in my case, a fear of rich. Hey, buddy, I hope you're watching this. After I post another video showing how much of a piece of crap you are, then I'll be ready to move on. If you want me to not say your last name so people don't look up who you are, maybe you should consider a donation to the Sunshine Project. You know what I'm saying, big fella? You got that $300,000 watch. I'm sure you can figure it out. All right. Fear of God. Man says God ain't real. This is hilarious. All right. Fear of man moves you toward the liars and deceivers. I mean, watch this. I did not plan to do this morning. I just woke up and made some coffee. And then God said, look up the Legion verse. And think about you're telling this to your grandma, your aunts, your uncles. In other words, he's teaching me how to think about the audience as I'm preaching. Because those are the people that are going to hear it first. Okay? And then they'll hear the love in it as it goes out. Okay? The UnderChurch is going to be a beautiful thing. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. It's going to be beautiful. All right. And so, I know you guys have seen me struggling a lot. But think of it as the dusk before the dawn. It's just the dusk before the dawn. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. I'm sorry I got to throw some tantrums to do that, but we're going to get through it. All right. So when you stay afraid of God, that's what I'm trying to do. Stay afraid of God, not of man. So I have no more fear of my old man. He's getting a little slow. And by the time I'm about to start exercising because just to give you guys a window into how dark my childhood was. The reason I never exercised is because my dad did constantly, and he was filled with a deep rage. He's got body dysmorphia, so he's steroids, all that kind of stuff. I didn't want to be like him, and I knew I had a dark rage because of him, and it was pushed into me by him. Those demons were pushed into me by him, not taken out. You know what I mean? So, as I've kicked them out, I'm like, oh, now I can work out. Now I can go do martial arts. So I'm going to be getting into all that for my health too. Don't worry. There's going to be physical health transformations as well. So that is why we're intentionally engaging this fear response and why I must stay afraid. Why Legion had to stay afraid. You know, Legion couldn't be a Baptist because he needs to remember he's got to keep running from the pigs. He's got to stay away from the pigs because they bring him into sin. They're liars and deceivers. They just want pleasure, prosperity, power. So my sin, when I got real angry with my grandma and said some things sounding like a preacher, but was coming from a very dark place, right? And I'm sorry for that, okay? I'm not dodging accountability for that just by saying I have these problems. I still have to be accountable for my actions. I'm just going to have to apologize a lot more than most. You know, I'm going to have to say sorry a lot, unfortunately. So there you go. Now, so that's more or less what's going on. I'm Legion, but the demons have been cast out, and God has given me this journey to help teach y'all how to resist the satanic agenda. Because I gotta resist it every day. It's coming for me every day, full force, because I'm fighting in the other direction, full force. So I feel the edges of spiritual warfare, which is why I think something big, we gotta work on our spiritual security to protect our communities, right? And I'm gonna get into a personal reason when I talk about why the UnderChurch next. I wanted to hop on here while editing and add a little audio file. The next clip is me during a flashback. I want to give just a heads up. You're going to see a lot of what's called switching. So these different characters will jump in and out as I go through it. This is a problem that is much harder to control during a flashback. So that's what you're going to see up ahead. And, if you want to check out the GoFundMe and help me with legal fees and medical bills, etc., as I kind of climb out of a difficult era of life with some high stress things that caused me to fall into a bit of a disassociative, depressive episode for a long period of time. So that's done some damage. I'm trying to clean up. So thank you so much for your support and your time. I love you all. I love Jesus, and He loves you. More to come. So I debated whether to record this quite a bit, but I felt as an addendum, and I'm going to put appropriate warnings before this. I want you to sit here with me while I'm having a flashback. Okay? It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. But, hold on. The devil's just a bug in the web. Knock them down like bowling pins, baby. So, the reason I have this fundraiser, a lot of it is all this cool stuff. But that's because I think I'm still trying to, some liars and deceivers still are trying to fight their way in. So I'm just powering through um, some very severe pain instead of disconnecting, right? So that's pain stemming. Or I bite my hand to use the pain to force me to focus in and stay alert. um, it's very rough. I can handle it. The devil's just a bug, baby. I just need y'all to watch my back while you take care of my mama. Because I already got the bug. Like and share. Let the GoFundMe speak for itself, I hope. And this video speak for itself, I hope. It would be wonderful if I could raise the funds to get legal fees taken care of to help get some help with my son. I'm going to apply a scholarship for an intensive outpatient program for my family. I'm going to apply for a scholarship to psychology school. Bunch of other things. So all the funds that end up in that bucket will be holy to me. You understand? So I'm taking it to fight the devil and make sure my back is covered. All right? Wake up, baby. Coming to you through the Luciferian light box. Te amo. I love you. I got the devil handled. So just take care of my family, okay?